This is Making It. Stories of success and achievement, inspiration and survival. Hosted by Mark and Paul Kinney and sponsored by More Financial Strategies, helping you make it through life. And now, here's Mark and Paul.
Thanks for joining us for this week's episode of Making It. Today it's making it at home. And, you know, we've covered making it as an NFL ref, making it as a bodyguard.
Okay, I'm tracking. Go ahead.
Yeah, making it as
bodyguard.
Yeah, I already
you
got
say
that.
Okay.
Making it out of the Cobra. We did that last week. Today we're gonna be sophisticated.
Sophisticated. Is that even something we should be?
In fact, I have my. You can hear them. I have my little bottles of wine here from Spoto Wines. Now we teased it last week and talked about making it at home, making wine at home. There's a difference, though, between Spoto Wines and, you know, your average...
The do-it-yourself wine kit, you buy it wherever?
Yeah. They are the first... They are the first bonded winery in Sacramento County, meaning they are a commercial winery at their home. Does that make sense? They're selling wine... around the world, for that matter, and it's owned and operated by Christy and Stuart Spoto. And
hence the name Spoto Wines, Paul.
You know, it didn't take them long to put that together.
Yeah.
And they. What's interesting about them is they're primarily the Bordeaux-style blends of grapes from Oakville, which is in the heart of Napa Valley, which we're not far from. We grew up not far from Napa Valley. Great wine, great grapes there. And so they make these fabulous wines, not only at their home, but they're bonded, so they're a commercial operation. And it's quite an operation at their home, and that's what you're going to hear about on today's show.
And interestingly enough, they even allowed us to come on the premise. That alone...
You know, getting through the security.
Yeah, I showed them my badge.
Yeah.
That's why, again, we relate so well.
The highest, the big security threat there is Napa, the half-wolf dog. Remember Napa?
Yeah, I do.
Beautiful dog. So anyway, that's today's show, Making It at Home with Christy and Stuart Spoto, Spoto Wines on Making It.
So your husband is not here?
No, he's here.
Oh, he's here.
Okay.
He's here. Oh, yeah. Yeah. Hi.
So this is
the production area.
This is the production area, but let's.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you. Sorry, just.
That's okay. Eat away.
I'll talk while you eat. So.
I want to know what motivated you to do this, and then what's the story behind having a house where there's a winery in it?
Yeah, home-based business.
So. Making wine has been in Stuart's family for over 40 years. So that actually makes him about 193 years old. But his dad was a home winemaker and made wine, and Stuart made wine right alongside of him at about age 7, 8 years old. And it just became something that the family did together.
Now,
And
in between bites of bagel, Stuart, was it good wine?
A family wine, you know, what was fun about what we did is that my dad didn't do anything half-ass. He did everything to the nth degree. So, you know, cleanliness was key and first and foremost for him, and getting good grapes. But with that said, our first attempt at it, I grew up in Yuba City on a farm, we used grapes from our property. And it wasn't that good, but it got a bug in my dad's bonnet, and he really wanted to, do it again. So when we moved to Davis, we teamed up with a lot of UC students.
Which, of course, some people would know that's like what, the mecca of winemaking and expertise.
Very much so. Yeah, absolutely. And his dad's very analytical. So what he didn't know, he would find the right people to really hone in on making good wine. So they continued to make wine through high school and college,
yeah.
And then after...
Well, I think when we were in Davis, after a couple of years of making with some, teaming up with a few students, we found a source in Napa. It's called the Oakville Station, and it is truly a historic vineyard in Napa where some of the best and finest cabs were harvested from, and our vineyard is part of that historic Tocolone vineyard. So
we're in their garage, right? Are we in your garage?
What is...
this is a bonded winery.
This is what?
This is a bonded winery right here.
Yeah, explain. This is your home, and it's a bonded winery.
The first bonded winery in Sacramento County ever.
What does that mean?
Well, Well, being bonded just means that you can legally sell your wine. And that's all we wanted to do, is be able to produce.
ensures that you pay your taxes.
Right.
Oh, well, there you go.
Yeah, they just want their cut.
So anybody can make wine, but
Sure.
you can't sell it.
That's correct.
Right.
So we wanted to become a bonded winery, and Stuart went down to the county and said, this is what I want to do. And
Business plan in hand.
And they said,
They
what?
laughed.
yeah, they said, no, you can't do that. That's simply impossible. And Stuart persevered and said, so, just what can I do? We'll jump through any hoops that you want. And she said, there's the door.
There's the door.
There's the door.
Really? That's
So
what
she said, you can leave.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's basically
Seriously?
the advice that was given. Yeah, it was very troubling because I'm not, I don't take no easily, especially I had a business plan, I had a model, I had everything laid out to make it work. All I wanted to do was convert what I was currently doing, because I was currently doing this, and be licensed to sell it. I wanted to be able to bottle it, sell it, and pay taxes on it. And they said no. So a friend of mine was a lobbyist.
He was Roger Dickinson's best friend. So he sent his best friend to come over, see what the winery looks like, try the wine. We sent him home with some wine. And the next thing we know, we get a phone call from Roger Dickinson's office, who was the county supervisor at the time. So Stuart goes down to the county, and there sitting in the waiting room is that same woman who told him to, there's the door. Well, next thing you know, they call Stuart, and they're in the same meeting. So they're all sitting in this room together, and Roger Dickinson says, so Stuart wants to make wine commercially. He wants to pay the taxes. He wants to be bonded, and I have to say, it's pretty good wine. He goes, can you make that happen? And she's like leafing through her books, trying to find the thing. And he goes, well, make it happen. And the next thing you know, we were the first bonded winery.
What year was this?
2004. So we've been making wine commercially now. This is our 14th year.
Yeah.
So
and you're
it's,
looking at the whole staff right here. We throw a mean Christmas party.
So when you look at the wine industry, the first thing that comes to mind, it's a crowded industry. What makes Spoto Wines different than everybody else that you go to these giant, stores that sell wine from the top? There's 1,000 varieties and labels. Why you guys? What made you think you could do this?
Well, the thing that makes us special or different is that we really everybody says they focus on quality, but look around. This is probably the most pristine barrel area you've ever seen, I would imagine. Now, with that said, getting back to the original question, what makes ours special? Well, I have a feeling people will say we are really focused on our blends. Our blends are Bordeaux style, Merlot, Cab Franc, Malbec, sometimes Petit Verdot, and then we also make a Bordeaux style Cabernet, which is again Cab, predominantly Cabernet Sauvignon, 75% at least, and then a little bit of Cab Franc, Merlot, and Malbec. And what those varietals do, many wineries in Napa, if you buy a Cab, it's 100% Cab, or maybe a splash of this, a splash of that. I like to take Cabernet and just really craft it so that when you taste it, it's going to hit your tongue, spread out, and give you this aha moment or a wow look on your face, which we have both seen at many of our tastings. Somebody tries our wine, never heard of us, tastes it, and their face just lights up like, oh my gosh. And that is accomplished by blending and taking our Cabernet and adding the right amount of Merlot, the right amount of Cab Franc.
But every year it's going to change, though, depending on what grapes are in and what good grapes there are, right? Am I correct?
Of course. And Mother Nature throws a curveball every couple of years. It's called the drought. It's called a wet fall. All these things add up and affects the grapes.
The smoke from the fires.
Smoke from the fires. So there's always a constant battle with Mother Nature and variable on how to make the wine. So I can adjust by Cabernet may be a little off this year, but Merlot is dynamite, so I can add a little bit more Merlot.
You're like a scientist slash chemist slash flavorologist slash.
Well, yeah, that's what makes our wines. And I'd say one of our most popular wines is our Bordeaux blend. It's called a Cuvée Christian. And
is that named after you?
Yeah, it's named after me. Yes, it is.
And we call that it was our recession wine. When the 2007 came along, 2008 came along, wine sales, pretty much everything came to
plummet,
slow down because people weren't going out to dinner. We didn't have a wine club, so restaurants and wine shops weren't buying our Cab because it was pretty expensive. So we decided to make a Bordeaux style blend. That's when the birth of Cuvée Christian came around, which is a softer version of our Cabernet, which is way more food friendly across the board, from pork to lamb to steak.
Okay.
And the wine is just a softer. It's more Merlot based, so it's a little bit less to produce. And we priced it way less, and it sold out like that. And that was the birth of our Bordeaux blend to get us through the recession. And now that's still our number one selling wine because the price point's good. It's the same fruit from our Oakville vineyard, and it's phenomenal.
So what others could look at as a problem, oh my goodness, what are we going to do? You turned it into an opportunity.
We made lemonade.
You did. The lemons turned into lemonade. So I got 400 cases. That's what, 4,800 bottles? 12 to a case? Is that enough to make a living?
No, my Napa colleagues ask that question all the time, and when you look at, if you go to Napa and try to do this model, no, it wouldn't, because the value of land there is just astronomically high. The ticket
For the winery.
for the winery and the land.
You mean for the
vineyard?
Well, I understand that, but you're going and picking out a vineyard and saying, I want to buy your grapes. You're not buying the land.
It's not that easy. I mean, because the grapes are in such demand.
So how do you get them?
There's people. Well, we've had this contract for over 20 years, so there are people waiting in line that if something happened to us, those grapes would be taken up like that.
And these are creme de la creme of grapes, so we are very fortunate to have gotten these grapes. And that's exactly what Stuart's dad always told us as we were making wine in the early years, is there's two very important things to making wine. One is cleanliness and great grapes. And we are fortunate enough to have those contracts.
So how did you find it 20 years ago? And is the contract like for eternity?
No, I mean, we get new vineyard managers all the time and different,
of the same
administrators. Yes, exactly. We know exactly what rows are going to be ours.
So are you literally going back to the same vines from the previous year, the same row?
So every year I have South Station Block 4, row 1 through 13.
Sounds like a prison.
Yeah.
Okay, go ahead.
And my Cab Franc is Southside Block 5, row 1 through 6.
And your average bottle of wine sells for what?
Well, our Bordeaux blend is in the $90. Is a $90 bottle of wine. Our Cabernet is $140.
Fruit's expensive too.
Yeah, the fruit is very expensive. I mean, our vineyard, boy, our neighbors in this vineyard are Harlan Estates, $1,000 a bottle. Let's see, Farniente, anywhere from $100 to $400 a bottle. Opus One, $300 and something a bottle. So these are some pretty fine grapes that produce some really nice wine. So, especially if
you're in good company.
We are in good company. We're very, very fortunate to be there because there are maybe 40 or 50 wineries in Oakville, and they produce some of the finest wines in the country. You have Screaming Eagle, Opus, Harlan, Dalaval, Spoto.
There you go.
And the wines range from $1,000 to $100, and there's really not much lower than that because the grape cost, the demand for the fruit is extremely high in Oakville. So, yeah, we're very fortunate to have this Oakville fruit.
It's a home-based business because you can hear the leaf blower in the background.
That's right. We couldn't cut that out. It just shows you. Look at what we do for this show. We are live on location.
Yeah, at Christy and Stuart's home, where they're making wine, very fine wine, I might add. I wish you could see the operation because it's a good-sized 3-car garage. It's a nice home.
It is.
And, they've got a basement. They've got a side room. These big vats of, we'll talk about it in just a second, but these big vats that have all the grapes in them. And how many people have their own forklift?
That would be pretty cool.
Yeah. He's driving around in his little forklift. It's a combination, Mark, of passion, because he has a passion for winemaking, and guts. I mean, it's gutsy to get out there in that market because there's a million wines.
Well, and I wrote that down, Paul, that he's passionate and he loves what he does, and he wasn't going to take no as an answer. And so if you're listening and you have an idea, a concept, and very familiar in our world at financial planning, there's a lot of things we're doing. This show is an example. We're doing something nobody else has done. And we've had people say, oh, you can't pull this off. No, nobody's going to listen, so forth. Well, very similar to what he's doing, what we do at Moore is we're passionate. We believe we have the courage to change the world. He believes he could change the wine industry.
And In his world, he is. I had to get my calculator out there and kind of figure out 4,800.
Well, 2 elements of success he mentioned. You have to have cleanliness, which the place was immaculate.
Yeah.
And great grapes. And he has those 2, which leads to success.
Yeah, so he's making it. Come back in just a second.
Is that the name of the show?
Yeah,
Making
it is.
Okay.
Yeah, Making It at Home. We'll have more in just a second, right here on Making It.
You're listening to Making It with Mark and Paul Kinney, sponsored by More Financial Strategies.
Very similar to Stuart. Think about success, what it means. And when you are up against the wall, and at More Financial, we look at what we call our space. Everybody who's in our space, competing for customers, competing for new dollars, is you're going to run into opposition. You're going to have naysayers. And you're going to get resistance. So opposition, resistance, naysayers. We believe that what we're doing at More can change our community, can change our state, and eventually can go across the country with some of the ideas and concepts. There are people like Stuart, in his world, people telling, no, Stuart, you can't do that. And so at More, if you want to be part of what we're doing, if you want to change your family, if you want to change the legacy that you're going to leave, and if you want your message and why you do what you do left for your heirs, then that's why you need to pick up the phone. You need to come in and see us, because we have the tools. We have the things that you can do so that when your life has been well spent, that's what you want to hear, well spent. It has nothing left to give. If that's you, then partnering with us can make that a reality. And that's what makes More different.
296-4464 is the number to reach Mark, 296-4464. Or check out the website, morefs.com, morefs.com. Back to Making It now, Making It at Home with Christy and Stuart Spoto, Spoto Wines. Let me give them a plug real quick, spotowines.com, S-P-O-T-O, wines.com. You'll see their website and see the family, and great-looking family. And I don't know if they have Napa the wolf dog on there or not. I'd have to look through.
Well, they have an interest in enology.
In what?
Enology.
What's that?
Yeah, for those of us who know, Paul, it's called the study of wines. And
Enology?
Enology, yes. E-N-O-L-O-G-Y. Enology.
I didn't know that.
Well, that's why you listen to the show, because you're going to learn something.
All right. Back to Making It at Home with Christy and Stuart Spoto.
How important is a barrel to winemaking?
Well, so imagine.
And what's more important, the barrel or your name on the barrel?
Well, that's kind of nice, right?
Yeah, that barrel, I don't really like it as much as my name on it. So a barrel is like a chef in a kitchen has spices to make the food more flavorful. A barrel is like our spice rack. We can put different types of oak. We can do different types of toast levels. We can do different thicknesses of the wood, different age.
You're talking about the actual material in the barrel.
Yeah.
Not
So there's like so many variables that I can call out when I buy these barrels, and they're all listed on all those numbers, ML, VLS.
Is there like one barrel that's like your baby?
Well, they all are my babies, because I'm aware of what's going on in each one of them. I have to come out here once a month and taste them and top them off. Meaning,
are they all different?
Different varietals in some of them, yeah.
But you might have 3 barrels that are a certain varietal.
Right. So I may have. Let me back up a second. When I make the wine, as you're seeing right here, it goes into a tank after I press out separate the skins and the seeds from the juice.
What is this?
This is Primitivo Petit Syrah, and it's starting to ferment right now.
And it's what, about 5 foot by 5 foot, 2
4
feet
foot by
deep?
4 foot.
Half a ton,
Yeah.
you said, Christy?
ton.
Yeah.
Half a ton, yeah. So it's about 1,000 pounds. And in here, the fermentation takes place. So we're converting the sugars into alcohol by just adding yeast.
The activity is.
I do. And how
it's
many
bubbling up.
bottles of wine does this eventually give you, do you
About
think?
350 to 400 bottles of wine right in this bin right here.
Is this what you're making this year? This is all the grapes?
No. This is not even a fraction of what I'm making this year. I have more in the other room, and I'm getting.
Show me the other room.
Yeah.
But this won't be served. What's that? We won't serve it until it's.
It's
who
got
had
at
that?
least 2 or 3 more years before this is going to be ready.
We serve no young wine before it's time.
Right. That's the saying. So these barrels, do they have a lifespan?
I use them typically after the first use, meaning anywhere from 2 to 3 years, the wine is in the barrel. I recycle them, meaning I use them again as a neutral barrel, because most of the oak products
Flavoring.
are flavoring are pulled out of them in the first use of them.
So the barrels have a lifespan themselves. It's not like a 20-year-old or a 50-year-old barrel is better than a 5-year-old barrel.
Yeah, you can keep the barrel as clean as you want it, but there's certain things that there's no sense to doing it.
So this is about a 3.5 car garage.
Mm-hmm.
You've got a fraction of the fruit in it. Where's the rest of the fruit?
Well, so what's going to happen?
Here we go.
Yeah.
Now but all the equipment's in here too. That'll be moved out. This is the cold room, and so
Oh, it's cold in here.
Yeah.
Ooh, chili.
It's supposed to be like that.
yeah. So what I do is this was just a stem this morning, meaning that we separated the stems from the grapes.
Now, Stuart, hold. You said they've been destemmed. I see some stems
Hey,
in there.
that's my department. Exactly. No, I know there's a few in there, but it's pretty quality
How do you?
work,
You're not doing this by hand.
No, well, he's up on a ladder with the destemmer, shoveling the grapes in, and they fall through the chute. And I've got my head. I look like Lucy Ricardo with my head under there, getting all this grape juice splattered on me. But I pick out all the matter other than grapes. So that would be some of these stems or, little jacks and leaves, things like that, because this is where we're talking about the quality of what we do.
This is actually pretty darn clean.
Yeah, it's actually really clean.
These
Very much
4
so.
bins, is that all the fruit?
No.
No.
We'll probably make about
Oh, no.
14, 15 bins of fruit.
So do you, when you're out there, now I'm getting esoteric, do you have like a relationship with the grapes? The process of cutting them off the vine and just the whole, this is why you do this. It's just not
You're not out there naked, are you?
No, it's just not to have the wine taste good, but it's the entire process from harvesting to the meshing to the aging, right? It's all part of it.
It's all part of it. And I may not have a relationship with each vine, but I know my vines very well. And the workers out there are the same group of gentlemen from year to year, so they know me. They get out there and go, "Oh, Mr. No Hojas," it's like, 'cause it's no leaves, because I'm a stickler when we're riding the tractor to make sure that they're throwing their bins over and there's a lot of leaves in them, so they know that I don't accept that.
So let's say this next year is a bad year. There's a drought. Something happens.
A drought can be a good year,
Yeah,
though.
great.
Okay. Something
too much rain.
smoke. Something
that's
happens where you're not going to see the result of that bad thing for 3 years.
No, you'll know now. I mean, even some of the fruit that I've tested from Lake County, or you'll be able to see when you pick it if it's going to be good. When I taste this juice, I've already sampled this juice, looked at the sugar level, I've looked at the pH, I've tasted it for overall yum factor, as Christy likes to put it. And everything we have so far is awesome.
I guess what I mean is you have barrels out there right now that some of that is going to be poured into bottles 1 year from now, 2 years from now, 3 years from now.
So I see what you're saying, and I think my answer to the question or to the comment is that if you don't like this fruit now, it's not going to get any better as it ages.
What's downstairs?
Yes.
Yeah, you lead because I got to
I will
follow
lead the
Paul.
way. Yes, you guys are like twins.
We're trapped. We're connected at the hip.
So our favorite
So
thing
is this considered the production area?
Yeah.
Right, so what'll happen here is that, imagine 2 bins by 4, so I can get 8 right in here, 9, 10, 11. I can get 11 bins in here and another 4 in there. So as the season goes on, I could have up to 16 or 17 bins between this room and that room. It's a constant transition.
Managing your space.
Oh, every square inch of it.
Yeah. Oh man, we could use more space. But maybe it's better we don't. Then we keep ourselves in control.
Where's the bottling done?
Up in the production
Oh, it
area.
is? Okay.
Yes, absolutely. So this is where we do our tastings, and we've had up to 30 people down here before, and it gets very, very loud and ruckus, but everybody seems to come and have a great time.
Bottling is done upstairs, labeling is done upstairs?
So
Yes.
all my equipment, when we were in that cold room, my bottler, my corker, and also I have a labeler, foiler, everything's stored away because we just finished bottling. Last month we bottled our Cabernet and we bottled our Bordeaux blend the month prior. So where you saw the forklift, that's where we do all the bottling right up there.
Wow. How many are in your wine club? That goes out every month, is it?
No, twice a year.
Okay.
Our wine club is, we have about 150 members, so it's about 300 wine club folks that are part of our group, and it takes about 85 to 90% of our wine, which is awesome. It's the perfect scenario.
We feel very fortunate because we are such a small little winery, but the little engine that could.
Tell me about, because I know they talk about it, the cork. Is that like really?
Well, here are the corks. This is a piece of cork from a cork tree.
It's the bark, right?
It's the bark, exactly.
They make a vertical.
Right. And then a circle on the top
Horizontal.
and a circle on the back, just on the main part of the trunk, not on the limbs.
Maybe 6 foot tall.
Yeah.
How tall?
Maybe 6 foot tall, depending on the size of the oak.
But the tree isn't killed.
No, they only harvest that bark every 10 years.
And it regrows.
And it regrows. Yep. Regenerates.
And the interesting thing is it could take 20 to 30 years for an oak tree to even produce the oak. So it's just really an interesting process. And, our corks, you can get cheaper corks, but our corks are over $1 a piece. And the ones I just ordered for next year, they're even more so because they're hand sorted to even higher qualities. It's the finest, and we didn't even know about it until we went to the factory. It's the finest cork in the world. So
they sold him. That's all I've
They
got to
did.
say. They sold him.
but they're beautiful.
Look at he's passionate about the cork.
But think about it. When somebody pulls a cork out of a bottle and they hear that, that pop when it comes out, they look at it. They're not going to want to see a cork that looks like crap. They want to see a fine, beautiful cork that's just
reflective of the wine that's about ready to be poured.
Exactly.
Can't they burn your name into these?
They do.
They do.
Yeah, we have. Yeah,
Look at
I think
them.
they're all in there.
There they are.
They're all in there.
So I'm not a sommelier.
A what, Mark?
A sommelier.
Yeah, sommelier.
Those of us who are also in the enology, the study of wines. What a fascinating... you think about what you do for a living, what I do for a living, what others do for a living. It's all about the experience, from the cork, right? It's
The hand-sorted cork.
right, and to the bottle, to everything that they do that comes together for the finished product.
We're talking to Christy.
sommelier. Isn't that you like sommelier?
We're talking with Christy and Stuart Spoto on today's edition of Making It at Home, the first bonded winery in Sacramento County, which means they make a fine wine, but they also sell it commercially, and they've got a great operation. We'll have another segment coming up in just a second, but it's time to turn our attention to making it through life. That's coming up next on Making It.
We'll be back with more Making It right after this from More Financial Strategies.
It's time for that shameless plug. More financial strategies.
This is the learning segment.
Yeah, it really is.
Making it through life.
When you think about winemaking, it's not just about the finished product. It's about the journey. And from start to finish, from the vine to the bottle, right? So you think about what we do at More Financial. It's the journey. We cannot skip those steps and that process that gets people to the finish line. We're asset gatherers for much of our lives until we reach that point where we call retirement. Then you are turning assets into income. Very similar. You're turning that vineyard, you're turning those grapes into wine.
Well, that's a very sweet analogy.
Well, that's because I'm a sommelier when it comes to the financial services industry. And don't ask me to spell it,
Yeah.
but you think about the journey, and it's important that people realize this. We have folks come in and they go, God, you're just the same in person that you're on the radio. Well, that's what you want. You want to be working with people that you like, that you trust, that you feel are straight shooters. And our journey that we take with our clients, not just they become friends. We become part of their family. They'll call us when they need to buy a refrigerator. They say, Mark, everybody in town, where do I get my refrigerator? I need a new CPA. I need a new dentist.
And now they're going to call you and ask you for wine
You're
recommendations.
sommelier.
Yeah. Spoto Wines.
Yeah, there you go. And so this symphony of making sure all the different instruments are playing together. It's harmonious. That's what you're looking for. You don't want somebody off in left field doing their own thing. So when we are working with our clients, the CPA, the estate planning attorney, your tax advisor, what we do.
Is that, let me jump in here for a second. Is that one of the hardest things to do, is to get people to, check off the boxes?
It is, because what we are addressing is their mortality. Who likes to think that they're on the back nine? Who likes to think they're on the 18th? Because life is fragile. As I say, life is fragile, unpredictable. And we have to, our job is to make sure we get you across that finish line. People don't wake up and say, oh, today's the day I get to go buy that cash value life insurance policy. Oh, today's the day I get to go talk to Mark and the gang about long-term care. It's not at the top of their list. It's like going to get a colonoscopy. Oh, today is the day I get to go. Okay, not a good analogy. But they do want to make sure.
I need a colon cleanse.
Yes, isn't this exciting? To make sure their lives, their fiscal house is in order. And that's what we do. And we can do it in a manner where it can be somewhat enjoyable. That's why you listen to this show. We are who we are in person, not just on this show. Very similar to what the Spotos are doing. Great family. It's a family business. Their daughter's been all over the world. They are going to successfully pass that business on to her. We want to take what our clients are doing and make sure we successfully pass along what they've accrued and not used to their family members.
If you want to reach Mark, give him a call, 296-4464, 296-4464, or you can check out their website, morefs.com. Okay, let's jump back into the show, making it at home with Christy and Stuart Spoto, making wine commercially at their home in Sacramento. And I should point out, I live in Sacramento, which is why, and I know Christy and I know Stuart, and I know what they're doing is unique, but that's why the connection to me and Sacramento and why they're on the show. So I just wanted you to know that today on Making It.
Are there other guys like you doing this, or are you very much a lone wolf, so to speak?
That's a good question. I think that there are quite a few small producers. I kind of look at ours as like that little garagiste that you find in France that you have to go and have the secret knock and they open the door and they call you and they take you down to the basement. They pour you their small handcrafted wine and you're just like, oh my gosh, I'm so happy I found this. And so far we're pretty lucky to be able to say when people find our wines, it's kind of like that. And I have one client in Texas that he joined my wine club and I always ask, how did you hear about us? Because, we don't do any advertising. We don't do any promotions. And he basically said he was helping his friend do something in his house in Florida. And his friend's father opened a bottle of wine, and it was like the best wine he ever had. He forgot the name, but his friend's father was going on about this Italian in the Napa Valley that makes these small batch wines, makes it out of his home, and he forgot the name. So he forgot about it. Well, about 2 or 3 years later, his friend's father in Florida passed away, and he went to Florida to help his friend clear out the estate. The only dead soldier, empty bottle of wine on the wall was a Spoto Cabernet, and he immediately took a picture of that wine, came home, and joined the wine club. We have a lot of stories like that of people telling us how they found our wines or how they shared it with at a special occasion or something. It's really kind of cool.
So when the both of you are no longer here, what happens to Spoto wine?
Well, that's a good. I'm not quite sure what'll happen to it, but I know our daughters. They do like what we do. Our youngest is scientifically she could do this probably better than I could. She does. She's like one of our chief laborers. When we do bottling, she comes home, clears her calendar, and helps us bottle, and it really makes things go so much smoothly to have a third.
So are you mentoring somebody?
No, it's just us chickens here. That's about it.
Well, with that said, our oldest daughter, who is in the wine industry, who sells barrels, my thought for her was, gosh, there's so many opportunities for a woman winemaker, and she's made wine like in 4 different continents, so that's kind of neat. Now, the thing that I would really want to make sure that if one of our daughters did take it over is the blending. That's what makes our wine. So I can't just teach
it's got to be a taste thing.
Yeah, it really is. And I kind of, I don't know, I don't want to say I'm a super taster, but I can smell and taste things that a lot of people can't.
I get that. My wife can smell things that I cannot smell at all. Mm-hmm. And
so you can't teach that.
No, you can't.
No,
but,
either you smell it or you don't smell it. Yeah.
But
exactly.
I mean, kind of I'm already mentoring,
Sure.
I'm already letting them taste to see what the pre-trials taste like, what they taste like before they're actually a blend or, a formalized blend. So it's just, I don't know what the future will hold, but hopefully we're going to ride it. I told Christy, I'm going to do this till the day I die.
Sure.
And I'm young enough. I can do this. I have another good hopefully 20 years to do this. So
somebody listening to the show, they live in a different part of the country and they want to attempt this. Is it hard when you're not living near the grapes?
Well,
how do you do this if you live in Montana or Colorado or?
It's funny you mentioned that because I just had a wine club client who just joined. They were at a tasting here and they're from Ohio and they have fruit trucked out from Napa to Ohio.
Really?
Yeah. So now technically you should be out in the vineyard tasting that fruit several times a week to get to the optimum maturity. And if you're not and you're relying on somebody else, well, there's the first chink in the armor.
How much you have invested in this? Or when somebody says, I'm going to start making wine, maybe not on this scale, what do they have to put into it?
So the old adage that it takes a large fortune to make a small fortune in the wine industry is absolutely true, because there are so many wineries that you look at Napa and you go, they must have hundreds of millions of dollars into this.
Clearly.
There's a couple of wineries that, there's one that comes to mind that's absolutely spectacular. Every time I go there, I drool. And they're into it for probably $300 million. And how do you ever make your money out of that? You don't. So I started with nothing. I didn't have the large fortune to make a small fortune, but I had a passion. I wanted to make good wine. And I wanted to figure out how can I take that and make a commercial product. Well, I knew that I had to have good grapes, but I started with hand-me-down equipment. I started, every time I made a little bit of money, I bought the next piece of equipment. Every year, I'm still buying the next piece of equipment. So as we've started to develop our wines and our wines are selling, I start to reinvest in my company every year. A couple of years ago, I bought a very, very pricey labeler foiler device, as Christy was mentioning earlier. I couldn't have afforded that early on, so we were doing all that by hand. And now it's just, as we get older, it's actually working out because, a lot of those are backbreaking processes, so to have a little bit of technology on your side.
It's nice.
But your showroom is your basement. It's not the $40 million facility that they're building on site that's spectacular with the buses coming through.
But I guarantee you, anybody that comes down here and tastes our wine down here, they're having as much fun here and probably more fun here than they do in those $40 million facilities.
Yeah.
Because, the last time we did a taste we had about 5 or 6 people down here. And I always remember the comments because they just mean a lot to me. They said, well, you made it really tough because every wine was good. How do we decide?
One of each.
I think the personalized attention that we give people, people are coming into our home. And when you're at a big winery like that, they are beautiful, there's no question. But this is our home. We welcome you in. We try to give you a really nice educational experience as far as, like Stuart was talking about, and teaching people why and how. And a lot of people come in, they have a lot of knowledge, but many come in and they don't know anything. And I think that because we're welcoming and we don't make people feel funny when they ask a question that they think they should know, it's just a really nice experience and they seem to enjoy it. So it's kind of simple.
Every now and then we do a special project. Like right now I'm working with, I actually had Cheap Trick the band down here for a tasting once. I don't know if you know that band, but
I've heard of them.
Yeah,
yes.
they're a band
You're
from
probably
the,
too good for that.
they're a great rock and roll band. They're probably one of the most top performing money making bands in the nation's history. And so trying to do a label for them, we're working on that. We just did a label for a new PGA golfer, Cameron Champ, who will be playing at the Safeway Open next week. He just got his
PGA card.
Yep. And this guy crushes it off the tee. He hits it about 390, 380.
That's what Mark does.
Yeah, I can relate.
All of the day's work.
It's fun. We do a lot of fun special projects like that. Hold on one second. I got one of my highest ratings ever, which was really nice, from Robert Parker on the wine. He gave us a 96 on that wine over there. It's our family reserve. I barrel aged that wine for 4 years before it came out of the barrel. Can you imagine 4 years in a barrel? That's a long time.
And it says here,
Nobody
drink
does
date
that.
2017 through 2000. So the expiration date is 2035.
Well, that's what he's saying. It's going to age quite a few years.
Isn't that? Oh my goodness.
So it's a 13, so that's 25 years. So he's saying that wine will survive for 25 years, which is, I think it'll go actually longer.
Do you have old stock here still?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, stuff that you hold back that you're gonna.
Yeah, so we do a stock your cellar every year for our club members, and we pull out the old bottles. Like I have verticals going back to 2006 right over there. I have wines going back to our first year, 2004. I try to save a couple of cases of each vintage so that when we do pull them out, we can actually compare them, see how they're maturing, and they're drinking pretty darn good.
Yeah, we did a vintage vertical tasting of our magnums that went back to 1999. So people ask us, will they hold up and how do they age? And that was, I think, one of the best experiences to actually get to try these wines and see how they were holding up. And they did absolutely great. And we sold these wines and we gave proceeds to SPCA. So we're always doing a lot of fundraising kinds of things and trying to, give back to the community. So anyway, it's
Paul, I got to read this. It says the 2013 Cabernet Sauvignon Family Reserve is medium to deep garnet in color with a slowly evolving nose of blackberry preserves, kirsch and incense notes with hints of dried herbs, potpourri, earth and leather, plus a waft of rose hip tea. The full-bodied, rich, concentrated, and complex palate offers firm, grainy tannins and a lively acid line, lifting the long, layered finish.
You got all that, didn't you?
I did. Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
That's amazing what people,
That's what they tell us in song class.
It is amazing what they can taste.
Oh, very much so.
The guys who are, my understanding is if you're a sommelier, is that the
Yes.
right pronunciation? Guys who are good will tell you what vineyard it came out of, what year.
Oh, exactly. That's what my daughter and I are level 1 sommelier, and it really, that's very basic information. It's a vast amount of knowledge, understanding climates and various regions all around the world, but with each level of classification, if you continue forward with that designation, you do the deductive tasting, which is amazing. So they give you 6 wines, and you're exactly right. You have to tell if it's old world, new world, what varietal, what year, what vineyard it came from. It's amazing, the details that people who can do that would not be me, but it's pretty impressive.
On this week's episode of Making It, it's Making It at Home, talking with Stuart and Christy Spoto. The best part about Stuart's job, if you were listening carefully, is that he gets to wear flip-flops at work. He's walking around his garage, he's walking through the production room, and you can hear his little...
He's dressed like Magnum PI.
Yeah, he is.
Hawaii,
He's got the Hawaiian shirt on.
Yeah, the
Got
flip-flops.
The 5-day growth going on.
Yeah, it's like, like me. I can relate.
You have zero facial hair practically. not you at all.
This is what's interesting.
Yeah.
He's a person. They are people of excellence. They have taken what they're doing and they are not satisfied with mediocrity. Because mediocrity. Think about it. It's everywhere. Mediocrity. Whether you go to the store, you go get your hair cut. Well, you don't go get a haircut, but you go...
Because I have no hair.
Right, you go to the auto dealership. There are many people that live in the world of mediocrity, just enough to get by. Not them.
Yeah.
They're people of excellence. They want to do it. If they're going to do it, they're going to do it right.
Yeah. You don't want to miss the last segment coming up next on Making It.
You're listening to Making It with Mark and Paul Kinney. We'll be back with our final segment right after this message from More Financial Strategies.
So here we go again, talking about people of excellence. So when you think about what we do, and one of our areas of focus recently has been long-term care. Nobody likes thinking about it. When I say long-term care, where does that immediately take you mentally that you are going to be in a
long-term care facility, a nursing facility?
And you think about, if I say, Paul, what does it smell like?
Oh my gosh, don't.
It's luscious,
Please.
isn't it?
Oh.
Okay, no, it's not. It's people want to stay in their home.
And Dad. Our dad.
Yep.
He was fortunate. He was able to stay at home.
And so that is our focus. How do we help people understand why long-term care coverage is important? Because it's going to be expensive. It's going to be really expensive if you don't have a long-term care policy. Now, I know what people are thinking. Well, those long-term care policies, what if I never use it? Where's the money? Well, asset-based long-term care is really fairly new. And guess what? It's not like traditional long-term care. Somebody's going to get paid either a death benefit, they go on claim, or they say, you know what, this was the craziest thing I've ever done. Give me a giant portion of my money back. That's available today. So it's either if you go into a facility or you need round-the-clock care, you're going to pay for it, either directly, spending down your assets, or indirectly, getting into the insurance company's pocket and using their money. Our people choose the latter because we educate them and we show them the importance. Folks, it doesn't have to be expensive.
If you're interested, give Mark a call, 296-4464, 296-4464, or reach him at morefs.com. All right, let's jump back into it. Our last segment, Making It at Home with Christy and Stuart Spoto. Mostly, come on, it's Christy.
Yeah, it is.
No. Stuart's just walking around in his flip-flops
like Magnum
and his Hawaiian shirts. Making it at home, making wine at home on today's episode of Making It.
Here's our little library.
Oh my
here.
goodness.
Yeah.
It's
So what are we looking at here?
So this is my library of wines. So wines I've collected. Then here's a lot of the wines that when we do have tastings, we could have for sale.
So this on this wall, this is your wine.
There's a little bit of a library, but underneath the stairs, there's another 50 cases of wine that go back to 2003. But these wines are wines that we produced, and most of them are for sale. The wines in the shelves there are wines that we've collected over the years, and we try to benchmark with our wines or compare and contrast or just enjoy.
So this is your wine cellar.
This is my wine cellar, yeah.
So you can open a bottle, take the cork out, pour it, stick it back in, and put it on the shelf.
Yeah, it's interesting you asked that.
You're close.
So this bottle of wine, does that look odd to you on this bottle of wine?
Other than it's half full?
Yeah.
Look at the top, though.
Oh, it's empty. It's
it
sealed.
hasn't
The
been.
cork's still in there.
Yeah.
Corks never come out.
So you reseal them?
No, there's a device that you can actually
There's a little hole in
put a
there.
needle through here,
Corvin.
and you can pull a wine sample out. Oh, I'll show you. Hold on.
Oh
Yeah.
my!
So basically what it does, it clamps onto the bottle. What looks like kind of a hypodermic needle goes in through the foil, down in through the cork. It's conical, so it doesn't tear the cork. It just spreads the cork away. Here's the needle right there.
You just push it down. I'm not going to do it, but you push that needle into the cork, and then
Extracts the wine out of the bottle and replaces the empty space with argon.
the needle goes right down below the cork level. See, it's the length of the needle.
Don't let
right
your
there.
teenage kid. Don't have one if you have a teenage kid.
So here's the first version that came out. I think this is just kind of more of a novelty device, but this actually does the same thing. You push that through it, and then you just pump argon in there, and the wine flows out the top.
Oh, so the needle doesn't have to be in the solution.
The needle has to. Well, you have to turn the bottle up, so the needle is in the wine.
And when you remove it, it's sealed?
So the cork is very pliable.
Right.
So
Seals
it just
itself.
reseals itself. So you pull it out, the cork is resealed, and then now any space in there is backfilled with argon, so no air has touched this bottle. So the beauty of it is if you pull a cork, you probably need to drink that bottle within a couple of days. The older, the less time you have. So if you have a 10-year-old bottle of wine, you may have to drink it within a day, or the wine can start changing. It's not necessarily goes bad, but it starts getting
Oxidizes.
Yeah,
right.
so you have to drink it in a relatively short period of time. With this, I can come back to this bottle of wine 6 months later or longer. Like I have this bottle here, that
He goes right to it. 1975.
So this bottle of wine we corvined about a year ago, or 2 years ago, and it's still fresh as anything because it's just backfilled with argon. And you can actually imagine trying something that won't go bad. It's absolutely a cool device.
How many bottles in your wine
There's
cellar?
not very many here, maybe 800. I mean, my dad has a cellar, has about 3,000 bottles. and he's 86 years old, and he doesn't drink them that much anymore. So, yeah, we have to go help him clear out his inventory a little bit.
Is all this insured? Can you insure
Yes,
it?
I have everything insured through our, but I have different types of insurance. I have winery insurance. I have, liability. It's what's hard about having a home-based winery is the insurance, because people say, well, it's in your home. No, but it's a winery. No, but it's in your home. So if there ever was an incident, I can just see this type of thing going.
So do you have to have homeowners insurance and commercial insurance?
Oh, of course. Yeah. And huge liability.
So don't trip on your way out.
No, it's probably...
All the mats have been picked up. No, I'm kidding. But this is where we do a lot of our events, and this used to be horse country, so these were 2 barn stalls for the horses, and then this was our arena. This was all sand, and the horses had the best part of the yard for many years. So we turned it into a winery dining room.
You're a horse person? You grew up as a horse person?
I rode as a kid in New Jersey, and wasn't probably all that great at it, but then didn't ride at all. And then when my kids were growing up, we got back into horses, and then we had horses.
It's gorgeous.
Here. It's just a nice little place to entertain guests, and we've done weddings here, and small and mighty.
Wow, it's been
Tomorrow
great.
will be fun. We have a friend of mine has a taco truck, and he's going to bring his taco. And
that'll
his
be a
family.
blast.
And then we have Mumbo Gumbo, a portion of Mumbo Gumbo playing. So, yeah, it'll be fun. It'll be a lot of fun. We try to have nice events for our club members because
That's neat.
we want to just make sure.
And
they
look
have
at
a
this
good time.
weather right now.
That's why we can't make wine for anybody else. We have too many other
Check this
things
out.
going on.
That's what all the equipment. The equipment is in that cargo container, which doesn't look like a cargo container.
Oh,
I didn't want
my.
to have an ugly cargo container in here, so I designed it to look like a Sicilian shed.
Yeah. So that's a 10 by 25 foot container. So my distemmer's in there, or it will be in there. All my picking bins get stored in there. My bottling line is in there right now.
Do you think you'll ever move?
I don't think we can.
Never.
You wouldn't move someplace bigger so you can make more.
No, never. And our family, our parents are all aging, and we would never leave. This is where home is for us.
So if you have a dream, something that's been kind of gnawing at you, like, hey, can I do that? Forget the naysayers. Go and make it happen, as Christy did and Stuart, as they did it. They made it happen.
Yeah, they're an inspiration. If you're thinking, they're encouragers. Like, you're an encourager.
Well,
You're very positive.
it's inspiration, and you know what? It's going to cause perspiration in a good way, right? You got to work this stuff. This stuff doesn't come easy. You got to work. You got to roll up your sleeves. Sometimes you feel like hand-to-hand combat, right? Because the people that you think are going to support you, they don't.
If you want to learn more about Spoto Wines, go to spotowines.com and learn about their Bordeaux-style blends.
Christy and Stuart Spoto.
Yes. Next week on Making It, you don't want to miss the show. We're going to be talking with Bill Cartwright, a former NBA great.
Now, this is something I can relate to.
Yeah,
going up over the rim with Bill.
Yeah, not at all.
What?
Not at all. He's 7 feet tall. You're not 7 feet tall at all.
Yeah, I'm like Spud Webb.
Yeah, that's a good analogy. Here's a taste of next week's show.
What was that feeling like when they called your name?
Were you home?
I was in New York.
Okay.
For the draft. I was there at the draft. So, for me, it was just a process.
Because you're 22 years old, right?
Yeah, but I'm
pretty mature 22-year-old.
Well, I don't know. I don't even know if I'm 61. I don't know if I'm mature yet. So, but I was ready for the experience to be able to get out, and I'm like at the draft. Okay, I got drafted. I got drafted by the Knicks. Wow, that's pretty big. So now I'm
and you're going to New York.
I'm going to New York City. So even though I felt like I was ready, I've never been in New York.
And that is a vicious sports market.
It's going to test your character and find out who you are.
What was your first game like? I mean, Madison Square Gardens, right?
Well, think about this. Training camps were a lot different. Training camp was double days for a month. And it's not like it is now where the guys are so much smarter now where, you can have one hard practice and then the next practice has got to be a teaching session. Then it was 2 hard practices for a month. and you're staying at the Days Inn.
So join us next week on Making It in the NBA with Bill Cartwright. In the meantime, if you want to get a hold of Mark, 296-4464 is more financial
You know we got a rim in the office as well as a three-point line?
No, you don't. 296-4464, 296-4464. Give him a call.
You've been listening to Making It with Mark and Paul Kinney, brought to you by More Financial Strategies. The information covered today is designed to provide general information on the subjects covered. It is not, however, intended to provide specific legal or tax advice. It can't be used to avoid tax penalties or to promote, market, or recommend any tax plan or arrangement. You're encouraged to consult your tax attorney or advisor. By contacting us, you may be provided information regarding the purchases of insurance products, including annuities. Guarantees are backed by the financial strength and claims-paying ability of the issuing insurer. Riders may be available for additional cost. Product and features may vary from state to state. For full details on how life insurance works, including fees, expenses, and costs, contact our office at 296-4464. Mark Kinney is a financial professional licensed in the state of Arizona.